Collection of passages on the true self of Buddha nature. Here you can read and contemplate more passages related to the doctrine of self and my explanations in Chapter 3. Quote, "If it is said, since the Tathagata is not perfect in innumerable virtues, he is non-eternal and must change. He abides in the all-void and expounds non-self. Any such sutra or vijnana is of Mara. If a sutra says, the true enlightenment of the Tathagata is beyond knowing. Also, he is perfect in innumerable samkhayas of virtues. Therefore, he is eternal, and there can be no change. Any such sutra or vinaya is what the Buddha said. Any person who follows what Mara said is Mara's kindred. Any person who follows what the Buddha says is a bodhisattva." End quote. Mahaparinirvana Sutra. There are many false teachers nowadays who state that everything is void or empty, and that there is no true self, misunderstanding the teachings of Shakyamuni, who in fact said that there is no permanent self in the samsaric mind stream of beings, but not that there is no true self beyond the various layers of illusions and blind passions. This true self is Buddha nature, and it actually exists. It is eternal, unchanged, and uncreated. The teaching taught by the Buddha on the idea of self was offered gradually, as it is explained in the following passages. Quote, "Also, next, O good man, as an example, a woman has a child who, while yet very young, is seized by illness. Worried by this, the woman seeks out a good doctor. The good doctor comes and compounds 3 medicines, which are butter, milk, and rock candy. This he gives to her, to have it taken by the child. Then he says to the woman, when the child has taken the medicine, do not give any milk to the child for some time. When the medicine has worked its way out, you may then give milk. Then the woman applies a bitter substance to her nipple, and says to the child, do not touch it, that is, her nipple. My nipple is poisonous. The child is dying for the milk and wants to have it. But, on hearing of the poison, it runs away. After the medicine has done its work, the mother washes her nipple, calls in her child, and gives it her nipple. Although hungry, the child, having heard about the poison, will not come to it. The mother then says, I only put poison on my nipple so as to give you the medicine. As you've already taken the medicine, I've washed the poison off. Come, take my nipple. It is not bitter any more. On hearing this, the child slowly comes back and takes it. O good man, the case is the same with the Tathagata. In order to save beings, he gives them the teaching of non-self. Having practiced the way thus, beings do away with, that is, cast off mind that clings to self, and gain nirvana. All of this is to do away with people's wrong concepts, to show them the way, and cause them to stand above, to show them that they adhere to self, that what obtains in the world is all false and not true, and to make them practice non-self and purify themselves. This is similar to the woman's applying a bitter substance to her nipple out of love for her child. It is the same with the Tathagata. For practicing the void, I say that all do not have the self. This is like the woman's cleaning her nipple and calling for her child to partake of her milk. The case is the same with me too. I speak of the Tathagata Garbha. For this reason, the bhikshus do not entertain fear. It is analogous to the child who hears its mother, slowly comes back and takes the milk. The situation is the same with the bhikshus. They should know well that the Tathagata hides nothing." End quote. In order to help his disciples abandon attachment to themselves, Shakyamuni taught that there is no permanent and no true self in their mind stream, and illusory personalities that change constantly due to various causes and conditions. Then, after they understood that, and were cured of wrong views regarding themselves, he teaches that there is a true self, a Buddha nature beyond the many layers of illusions, which is the only reality which deserves their attention. He explains somewhat similar the same teaching technique in the Sutra of the Great Dharma Drum. Quote, the Buddha told Kashyapa, I explain the meaning of no self to destroy the worldly view of self. If I did not say so, how could I induce people to accept the Dharma of the great teacher? When the Buddha pronounces no self, sentient beings become curious. To hear what they have never heard before, they come to the Buddha. Then, I enable them to enter the Buddha Dharma through hundreds of thousands of causes and conditions. Once they have entered the Buddha Dharma with growing faith, they diligently train and energetically progress in their learning of the Dharma of emptiness. Then I pronounce to them the eternal peace and bliss, the liberation that still manifests form. Through hundreds of thousands of causes and conditions, I explain to them liberation, nirvana, and no self. Then I see sentient beings mistake liberation for ultimate extinction. Those without wisdom pursue extinction. Then I pronounce, through hundreds of thousands of causes and conditions, that there still is form after achieving liberation. Kasyapa said to the Buddha, World-honored one, achieving liberation and command means that sentient beings must be eternal. By analogy, upon seeing smoke, one deduces that there must be fire. If there is a true self in one, then there can be liberation. Saying that there is a true self means that there is form after achieving liberation. This is not the worldly self-view, nor is it the statement of cessation or perpetuity. End quote. Quote, every being has Buddha nature. This is the self. Such self has, from the very beginning, been under cover of innumerable defilements. That is why man cannot see it. O good man, imagine that there is a poor woman here. She has true gold concealed in her house. But none of the people of her house, whether big or small, know of it. But there is a stranger who, through expediency, says to the poor woman, I shall employ you. You must now go and weed the land. The woman answers, I cannot do this now. If you let my son see where the gold is hidden, I will soon work for you. The man says, I know the way. I shall point it out to your son. The woman further says, nobody of my house, whether big or small, knows of this. How can you? The man says, I shall now make it clear. The woman says further, I desire to see. Pray let me. The man digs out the gold that had lain hidden. The woman sees it, it is gladdened, and begins to respect that person. O good man, the case is the same with the Buddha nature which man has. Nobody can see it. This is analogous to the gold which the poor woman possessed, and yet could not see. O good man, I now let persons see the Buddha nature that they possess, which is overspread by defilement. This is analogous to the poor woman who cannot see the gold, even though she possesses it. The Tathagata now reveals to all beings the storehouse of enlightenment, which is the Buddha nature, as it is called. If all beings see this, they are gladdened, and will take refuge in the Tathagata. The good expedient is the Tathagata, and the poor woman is all the innumerable beings, and the cask of true gold is the Buddha nature. End quote. Mahaparinirvana Sutra. Quote, the Buddha nature is strong and vigorous. It is hard to destroy. Therefore there is nothing that can kill it. If there was something that could indeed kill it, Buddha nature would die. But nothing can ever destroy such Buddha nature. Nothing of this nature can ever be cut. The nature of self is nothing other than the hidden storehouse of the Tathagata. Such a storehouse can never be smashed, set on fire, or done away with. Although it is not possible to destroy or see it, one can know of it when one attains unsurpassed enlightenment. End quote. Mahaparinirvana Sutra. Quote, and next, O good man, as an analogy, there is a man here who knows well what is hidden under the ground. He takes a sharp hoe, digs into the ground, and hits upon such things as stones and gravel. All goes through, and nothing hinders it. That is, the hoe digs through everything, without being obstructed. Only when the diamond comes in its way can the hoe not dig through. Now, no sword or hatchet can destroy a diamond, O good man. The Buddha nature of beings is like this. It is something that all those people who discuss things, Mara Papayas, all men and devas, cannot destroy. Whatever occurs and is done can certainly be destroyed, like stones and sand. The true self of the Buddha nature is like the diamond, which cannot be crushed. End quote. Mahaparinirvana Sutra. Quote, if there are those who, with enhanced faith and understanding, seek the Buddha store, the true self, and the eternally abiding Dharma body, the Tathagata will pour the water of Sarvajana, overall wisdom knowledge, on their heads, and crown them with the white silk scarf of the Mahayana. End quote. Sutra of the Great Dharma Drum. Quote, Kasyapa asked the Buddha, world-honored one, if there is a true self in one, why is it covered up by one's afflictions which are like dirt? The Buddha told Kasyapa, very good, very good. you should ask the Tathagata this question. As an analogy, a goldsmith perceives the purity of gold. He thinks about why such pure gold is mixed with dirt and seeks the origin of the dirt. Will he find its origin? Kasyapa replied, No, world-honored one. The Buddha told Kasyapa, if he spends his entire lifetime thinking about the initial cause of the dirt, since time without a beginning, will he find the original state? He will acquire neither gold nor the origin of dirt. However, if he diligently uses skillful means to remove the dirt mixed with the gold, he will acquire the gold. The Buddha told Kasyapa, thus one's true self is covered up by one's afflictions like dirt. If a person who wants to see his true self thinks, I should search for this self and the origin of afflictions, will that person find the origin? Kasyapa replied to the Buddha, No, world-honored one. The Buddha told Kasyapa, if one diligently uses skillful means to remove one's afflictions which are like dirt, one will realize one's true self. End quote. Sutra of the Great Dharma Drum. Some questions are useless from the Dharmic point of view, especially those regarding the origin or the so-called beginning of samsara. The words beginning and end are the products of an unenlightened mind, which cannot conceive things beyond the duality of beginning and end, etc. The most important thing, as long as we are unenlightened, is to use skillful means, or the Buddhist path, to remove the illusions and defilements, which cover the true self, or Buddha nature. Once this true reality is revealed, we will find answers to all questions, or better said, all questions will cease because everything will be known and understood automatically. In our case, the Nembutsu of faith and birth and the Pure Land after death are the means through which we can remove the dirt from our true self. This is because the enlightened realm of Amida is the best furnace for separating gold, that is our Buddha nature, from the impurities that are attached to it, that is our illusions and blind passions. Quote, Kasyapa asked the Buddha, if there is true self or Buddha nature, why is it not seen? The Buddha told Kasyapa, I will now give you an analogy. For example, a beginning student is learning the 5 letters, that is the 5 sets of 5 consonants, which are used to compose stanzas or verses. If one wants to know the meanings of the verses before learning the letters, can one know them? One should first learn the letters, then one will know the meanings. Having learned the letters, one needs to be taught by the teacher, who uses examples to indicate the meanings of the verses composed of words. If one can listen to and accept the teacher, one will acquire understanding of the meanings of the verses and believe and appreciate them. The true self is now covered up by the store of afflictions. If someone says, good man, the Tathagata store is such and such, then the hearer immediately wants to see it. Is he able to see it? Kasyapa replied, No, world-honored one. The Buddha told Kasyapa, for example, the student who does not know the meanings of the verses should follow the teacher on faith. Kasyapa, know that the Tathagata is the speaker of truthful words. He truthfully describes the existence of sentient beings. You will know later, like that student has learned from his teacher. I now explain to you the realm of sentient beings by 4 veiled analogies. These 4 are the eye blinded by disease, the moon covered by heavy clouds, the water in a well to be dug, and the flame of a lamp inside a container. Know that these 4 analogies involve the causes and conditions for realizing one's Buddha nature. All sentient beings have Buddha nature, with immeasurable excellent appearance, majesty, and radiance. Because of Buddha nature, all sentient beings can attain parinirvana. For example, the disease of the eye can be cured. Before one has encountered a good physician, one's eye is sightless. Once a good physician appears, one will quickly perceive sights. Indeed, the immeasurable store of afflictions covers and obstructs one's Tathagata nature, or Buddha nature. Unless one encounters Buddhas, one mistakes no self for self, and non-self for belongings of self. After encountering Buddhas, one then knows about one's true self. As if cured of a disease, one's eye opens and sees clearly. The eye disease refers to one's afflictions, and the eye refers to one's Tathagata nature, or Buddha nature. When the moon is covered by clouds, it is neither bright nor clear. Likewise, when one's Tathagata nature is covered up by afflictions, it is neither bright nor clear. If one discards one's cloud-like afflictions, one's Tathagata nature will be bright and clear, like the full moon. When one digs a well, dry dirt indicates that water is still far away. When one gets wet dirt, one knows that water is near. If one gets near the water, then it is the ultimate end. If one encounters Buddhas and learns to do good karmas and to remove one's afflictions like dirt, one will realize one's Tathagata nature, which is like the water. This nature is also like the flame of a lamp inside a container. It is useless to sentient beings when its brilliance is hidden. If the container is removed, then the light of the lamp will shine everywhere. Likewise, one's afflictions are the container that hides one's Tathagata store, which is useless to sentient beings when its appearance and majesty are neither bright nor clear. If one discards the store of afflictions, eradicating them all forever, then one's Tathagata nature or Buddha nature will fully manifest its excellent appearance and radiance for Buddha work. It is like shattering the container so that sentient beings can enjoy the lamplight. End quote. Sutra of the Great Dharma Drum. Quote, I respectfully prostrate to the absolute perfect Buddha, the Blessed One, who is thusness, ultimate purity, self, great bliss, and permanence. End quote. Dolpapa Sherab Gyaltsen, the Fourth Council. Quote, Absolute truth has the quintessence of the 5 kayas of the Buddha, and is the omnipotent self of the 5 types of primordial awareness. End quote. The expression of the names. There are 2 important footnotes to this section. The first important footnote refers to the following passage. Quote, the Buddha nature of beings is like this. It is something that all those people who discuss things, Mara Papiyas, all men and devas, cannot destroy. End quote. Mara Papiyas are chieftains of Maras, that is, celestial demons. The second and final important footnote refers to a passage in the Sutra of the Great Dharma Drum, as well as Adrian Cirlea's explanation of that passage. Quote, Kasyapa asked the Buddha, World-honored one, if there is a true self in one, why is it covered up by one's afflictions which are like dirt? The Buddha told Kasyapa, very good, very good. You should ask the Tathagata this question. As an analogy, a goldsmith perceives the purity of gold. He thinks about why such pure gold is mixed with dirt, and seeks the origin of the dirt. Will he find its origin? Kasyapa replied, No, world-honored one. The Buddha told Kasyapa, if he spends his entire lifetime thinking about the initial cause of the dirt, since time without a beginning, will he find the original state? He will acquire neither gold nor the origin of dirt. However, if he diligently uses skillful means to remove the dirt mixed with the gold, he will acquire the gold. The Buddha told Kasyapa, thus one's true self is covered up by one's afflictions, like dirt. If a person who wants to see his true self thinks, I should search for this self and the origin of afflictions, will that person find the origin? Kasyapa replied to the Buddha, No, world-honored one. The Buddha told Kasyapa, if one diligently uses skillful means to remove one's afflictions, which are like dirt, one will realize one's true self. End quote. Sutra of the Great Dharma Drum. The author's explanation. Some questions are useless from the Dharmic point of view, especially those regarding the origin or the so-called beginning of samsara. The words beginning and end are the product of an unenlightened mind which cannot conceive things beyond the duality of beginning and end, etc. The most important thing, as long as we are unenlightened, is to use skillful means, or the Buddhist path, to remove the illusions and defilements which cover the true self, or Buddha nature. Once this true reality is revealed, we will find answers to all questions, or better said, all questions will cease, because everything will be known and understood automatically. This passage is somewhat similar to the parable of the poisoned arrow. There was a man who had been injured by a poisoned arrow. His friends came immediately to remove the arrow in order to save his life. But the wounded one objects, I do not want you to remove this arrow until I find out who released it towards me, what clan he belonged to, what kind of wood was the blow made of, what feathers were used, etc. Then Buddha asked his disciples, if this man proceeded correctly, and if he really should wait until he got the answers to all of his questions, or if he should just remove the arrow and save his life. It goes without saying that this man was an idiot, but he is not just a character in a strange or funny story. He represents all of us who, just like him, preoccupy ourselves with useless and wrongly addressed questions, neglecting what is really important, that is, our state of beings drowned in illusions and sufferings. There are questions which troubled many spiritual seekers, whether the universe is finite or infinite, and questions regarding the beginning and the end of the world. Not only are these questions spiritually useless, they also do not lead to an authentic transformation. The arrow is the first to be destroyed. That is the illusion which enchains the beings and leads to repeated births and deaths, while the rest remains to be regarded later.